This is the full beginner's guide to the gym. Now, I may not look like the most jacked guy in the world, but I've made a lot of progress. You see, in just 2 years, I was able to drastically transform how I looked and my life through mainly what I learned in the gym, because it's a very powerful teacher, and the gym genuinely did change my life. Now, if you clicked on this video, you don't need, me to tell you why you should go to the gym. What you want is for me to tell you basically pretty much everything you need to know when you're beginning in the gym. So, without further ado, I'm going to jump right into it. By far, the most important thing that you can learn, now all of these are very important, but by far probably the most important is progressive overload. When I first started out, I had no idea what this was. I just knew that when you go to the gym, you just move some weights around and you're supposed to get stronger. That's pretty much all I knew. I knew nothing. So I'm going to basically dumb this down as best I can. Progressive overload is the thing that builds muscle. Let me tell you a quick story. There was a man, now it's been debated whether or not he existed or not, but for the sake of this story, I'm going to say he was real. There was a man named Milo of Croton. I think that's, if I remember right, it was Milo of Croton. And he was a Greek wrestler. And the way he got really, really strong was that every day he would pick up this newborn calf. He picked up this baby calf and carried it around on his shoulders. And a baby cow, they're pretty heavy, but they're not unbearable, right? And so he picked this calf up and carried it around on his shoulders, which you still need a pretty decent amount of strength to do just to carry the baby. And then every single day, that calf, of course, grew. And as the calf grew, he grew stronger because every day he was lifting this calf. But he was only lifting a small amount of extra weight every day. So rather than him, so every day he's picking up this calf and it's growing, he's getting stronger and stronger until he was able to carry an entire bull on his shoulder. And bulls can weigh up to 1,000 pounds. And he was carrying this thing up on his shoulders. But he was squatting 1,000 pounds. That's the main principle of progressive overload. You see, in the gym, often people start out at a very light weight. So if you've never been in the gym before, basically what I'm telling you to do is go up to the bench press and grab yourself the empty barbell. So it's just an empty bar with no weight on it, and do some reps on it. If you're really skinny like I was when I started, and you can't even do that, then just start with the lighter dumbbells and do some chest flies or whatever. Like do some chest press with the lightweight dumbbells. You're starting with a very light weight. That's your baby calf. You're starting out light. Then what you're gonna do is every week, from your starting point of the gym, every week, you're going to add a tiny amount of weight, whether it be 5 pounds or 10 pounds or 2.5, the smallest weight in the gym, those 2.5 pound weights. You're going to add them, you're going to stick them onto your barbell. And so every single week, you're going to add slightly more weight. And then as you add slightly more weight, that cow, it's growing bigger. And you're growing stronger. That is the principle of progressive overload. The next point, which is probably one of the most important things about going to the gym and building muscle, is diet. Now, diet is often overlooked by beginners. At least it was for me, it seems like, where you go to the gym and you think it's enough. You're just lifting weights and you're feeling good, and turns out you're not gaining very much muscle. You're not looking that much better. After months and months of progress, you don't really seem to be making any progress because you're not implementing the proper diet for your fitness goals. Now, if you're trying to lose weight, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to do what's called a cut, which is you're exercising, you're lifting heavy weights, but you're eating less calories than you burn in your total day. So basically what you can do is there's tons of apps out there. Now, I've never really used them myself personally, but I hear they're very good, where basically you put in your height and your weight, and you put in your fitness goal, and the app will basically tell you, and you also put in your general activity, whatever, and then the app basically tells you how many calories you're burning through the day. And so how many calories you need to eat to maintain your weight. So it's your maintenance calories. Basically, that just means whenever you feel hungry, you eat, and then you're fine. Your maintenance calories. To lose weight, it's pretty simple, right? You just eat fewer calories than you're burning. It's really, that's all weight loss is at its core. There's much more to it, of course, than that. There's, types of calories, there's glucose and sucrose and fructose, but basically the main point is that if you're trying to lose weight, eat fewer calories and exercise more. If you're trying to gain weight, continue to exercise vigorously, but eat more. Like, just eat everything you can. If you feel full, eat. If you feel hungry, eat. Just keep eating. You need to get your body is telling you that it needs calories. If you're skinny, you need to bulk. You need calories. That's the basics. Now, if you're trying to lose weight, it can be very complicated because basically, I'm going to sort of dumb this down a little bit, but the science tells us that essentially when you're overweight, when you're fat, your body got confused. Your body, your mind and your body, for whatever reason, thinks that you're hungry when you're not. Because what happens is basically the feeling of hunger comes from very specific chemicals and hormones in your brain. The problem is that a lot of our modern food, like sugar, has a strange effect on your mind's ability to, process the information of whether you're full or hungry. And what it does is it tricks your brain into thinking that you're not full. And so you end up overeating. You see, when you feel full, it's your body telling you, we've reached our maintenance. We're not trying to gain or lose weight. We're good. We have enough food. We're fine. You don't have to eat anymore. However, what sugar and weird seed oils and chemicals in your food does is it tricks your brain into thinking, no, I need to eat more. I'm starving. I'm so hungry. Because your brain doesn't understand that it's being poisoned by sugar and processed food. So basically, a very simple tactic to losing weight is just stop eating processed high sugar food. Like, the amount of people I see every day, like at coffee shops like Starbucks and Scooters. So where I live, we don't have a Starbucks. We got Scooters. That line is wrapped around the building every single morning. And what are they ordering? They're not ordering, black coffee that's not bad for you. They're ordering hyper sugar filled, like whipped cream, frappuccino, like weird stuff full of chocolate and sugar and processed whipped cream. Like, what even is Ready Whip? What even is that? These foods, you're eating them you're basically putting poison in your body because you're tricking your brain into thinking you're starving. So the simplest steps to being able to lose weight and allow your mind to understand, okay, like, I'm not actually starving, I'm full, is just stop eating so much sugar. In the morning, if you drink some like sugary soda or whatever, just sub it out with some water. gradually decrease the sugar in your diet, and this will allow you to much more effectively cut back on your calories. The next part of diet is protein. Now, the thing with protein is that it's often, I don't know, I have a mixed relationship with protein. Now, it's extremely, extremely important to get adequate protein in the gym, especially when you're trying to build and maximize muscle growth. Now, the rough estimate is roughly 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Now, this is basically the simplified gym bro version of it. Now, it's actually something like 0.64 grams of protein per pound of body weight, but people decide to round up to 1 gram per pound of body weight just to be safe. Now, with that being said, as I said earlier, I have a mixed relationship with protein where I don't really it's best for me anyway not to overthink it. Now, a lot of people get really obsessed, like, I like tracking every gram of protein, and that can be really great for some people, but for me, I just like to do it roughly. Now, every morning, at least for me to get adequate protein, I'll eat 4 eggs, and 4 eggs is about 25 grams of protein, roughly. And me weighing 140 pounds, it's not enough. Just like that, it's not even a quarter of my protein needs. However, through the day, I eat a lot of meat, I eat a lot of cheese, and all sorts of things. So basically, at least my advice to you is not to overthink it too much. I would use protein powder, but I genuinely just really hate the taste of most protein powders, and I don't really like all the artificial stuff that a lot of them have in it. But if it works for you, go ahead and get some protein powder. It's a great way to get much more protein into the day. The next point is staying consistent. Now, I made a whole video talking about consistency, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about this, but the basic simplified rundown of this is the gym is a habit like any other. And if you want to build muscle and get stronger, you have to consistently be training. And the hard part of that is sort of having that constant reminder in the back of your head, like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to go to the gym today, I'm supposed to go to the gym today. The best tactic for me when it comes to exercising or in the gym is basically just have a time in the day where it is literally, that is your gym time. Every single day, go to the gym roughly the same time every day, and it'll be much easier to be consistent, because if you end up skipping that time just out of pure laziness, you won't have anything to do then. You'll just be like, oh, what do I do now? Oh, right, I'm supposed to be going to the gym. Like, it's a great way to have that constant reminder. A lot of people like to do it very early in the morning. I have to make videos, so I usually go to the gym, and I have work, so I usually go to the gym at around 3:34-ish, around that time. The next point is newbie gains. Now, it's a phenomenon where, because your body is not used to weightlifting and resistance training, you're able to build muscle extremely quickly the first few times you train. In the first 1 to 2 years of going to the gym, I made the most muscle I probably ever will. I went from 110 pounds to 140 pounds. And I stayed fairly lean, so most of that was muscle. You need to max out your newbie gains. So training with intensity and staying consistent during this 1 to 2 year period of going to the gym. You can all you have to do is literally train like 3 or 4 times a week, and you will build a significant amount of muscle as a beginner. However, if you want to maximize things, and if you're like me, where it's like, oh, I want to max out my potential. Just do the training pretty much every day. With that, with knowing that with your newbie gains, you will have incredible progress. The next point is the split. Now, if you made this far in the video, I already know that you're very dedicated to this. So the next part is what's called the bro split. It's called the bro split in the gym because it's something that pretty much all the gym goer people do. And it's, what's your exercise routine, really? It's, most people do, because you can't train the same muscles every single day. You can, but it's not the most optimal. It's much more optimal for muscle growth to train different muscles every day, at least the same muscle group twice a week. Most people will do push, pull, leg. So muscle groups that involve pushing, like your chest and triceps, where you're pushing things forward, and then muscle groups that involve pulling, like your lats and your biceps, the next day. And then legs, the dreaded legs, the day after. I'm not going to explain how to do legs. Everyone knows it, like squats, leg extensions, leg curls, all that stuff. The next, now, it's up to you what your split looks like. Me personally, I prefer to do similar to push-pull legs, where it's chest and back supersetted the first day. Then I do some arms, and then the next day, and then I'll do legs, and then I rotate that pretty much just over and over again. And then there's your rest day. Now, I only like to have one rest day per week. It's usually on Sunday for me. You see, don't overlook your rest day. All right, rest is extremely important for building muscle in the gym. Because when you rest, that is when your body is able to repair the damage done. Because the way you build muscle is by tearing the muscle fibers, and then your body is able to regenerate them, and when it regenerates them, it makes them stronger. So you have to take, I can't talk today. It's more optimal if you take a rest day where you don't train at all, and you kind of just take her easy. While still staying active, I like to do some cardio or whatever, like go for a run during my rest day. And then your body will be able to regenerate its muscle fibers and grow back stronger. Speaking of rest, the next thing is sleep. Sleep is very much overlooked when it comes to fitness. Because a lot of people, it seems like, on the internet or wherever, will like start going to the gym, but they're still staying up super late, partying, doing all sorts of bad habits like taking drugs, whatever. And this is not a good idea if you want to actually build a decent amount of muscle in the gym. Because sleeping is basically your free rest day every night. In order to achieve this, basically a free rest day, because when you're sleeping, your body is, you're resting. So your body's able to repair every single night, making you stronger every night. It's a free rest day. But when you overlook this and are sleep deprived and you're staying up super late, partying, whatever, your body's not able to repair its muscle fibers nearly as effectively as someone who would be sleeping 8 hours a night. So basically, I'm not going to over-explain this. Sleep 8 hours a night, at least. Also, try to go to bed roughly the same time and wake up roughly the same time every night. It's much more optimal for your brain circadian rhythm and all that complicated stuff. I'll make a video about that later. Next is form and intensity. Basically, form if you're an absolute beginner and you have no idea what I'm talking about, form is basically how the method that you use for each exercise, what movements your body is doing. And as gym goers, we have this thing called form, where we move in a specific way that makes it much less likely for us to get injured. And something interesting that I heard was that on a flat bench press, you're much more likely to be injured, because it's just not the best. Even though your form can be great on the bench, but it's just still not the best position for your body to be in. So basically, advice to you that I'll give is add basically just the slightest incline. Like, most benches are adjustable, so add the slightest incline or slightest decline to that bench press, and it will make it much less likely for you to be injured in the long run. I'm not going to explain a bunch of form. There's tons and tons of form videos out there. But basically, take your form seriously. Don't be a massive ego lifter that breaks his back. Take your form serious, because if you get injured, you can't train. And you're not gaining muscle then. And the second part of that point is intensity. Intensity is extremely important for building muscle, because a lot of people, especially, like, no offense to you all, but CrossFitters prioritize volume much more than intensity. You see, even if you do 20 sets of 16 reps of bicep curls, but none of those sets went to anywhere near close to failure, you're not going to build any muscle. Because your body, basically, when you train, you're telling your body that we need to do more work. You have to push your body to exhaustion. And even though there's tons of studies out there or whatever, but what works best for most people is training to failure. Because if you go to the gym, and it's very interesting, where the people who are all science-based nerds, like kind of how I was when I was starting out, where you're not trained to failure, you're just like, oh, the studies show that if I train 80% to failure, then the muscle will be more optimally hit. Those people who are always talking about the most optimal way, they're always pretty skinny. They're never the biggest guys in the gym. They're never the strongest guys in the gym. The strongest guys in the gym and the biggest guys and the best looking guys are the ones that ignore all that and just train to failure. I've been doing this for a while myself, where you just train to failure every single set. Every set you train to failure. This is the most, I don't care what they say, but if you just look around in the gym, who are you going to listen to, right? You're not going to listen to the guy who's fairly skinny and you don't really want to look like him. You want to look like the big guy. If you want to look like the big guy, don't ask the skinny guy for advice. Ask the big guy for advice. The big guy's going to tell you, don't worry about it. Just train to failure every set. And it just makes logical sense. You have to train with intensity. The last thing before I get out of here is have fun and train with a friend. See, I feel like a lot of people, and I was one of them, where you just say, oh, I prefer training alone. I don't like training with a partner. People are just a distraction. Dude, I had never trained. When I was saying that, I had never trained with someone else before. And a lot of the people who say this were like how I was, where you're like, oh, people are just a distraction. I prefer training by myself. You had never trained with a partner before, ever. And I'm going to tell you, the moment I started training with a partner, with one of my best friends, the gym became one of the most fun things I could ever do. So just keep that in mind. If you make it fun, you're going to be more consistent. And if you're more consistent, you're going to make more gains. That's basically it. So enjoy the gym. Hopefully you got something out of this video. I hope you did, because this is a long video. But that's all I got for today. Don't have dreams, have goals, and stay wild.